The curtain hasn't risen yet. The audience sits in darkness, programs rustling, breath held. That electric silence before the first line isn't empty time. It's the most psychologically active moment in your entire play. Where do most playwrights think anticipation lives? Between scenes, in blackouts, during intermission. But anticipation is the engine that drives every choice your audience makes, from buying the ticket to leaning forward in Act 2. And if you don't understand how it works in a live theater, not on a screen, not on a page, you're writing blind. If you write for the stage, you're in the right rehearsal room. Subscribe. What is anticipation doing to your audience's brain as they sit in that darkened room? And how do you harness it? David Huron's research on expectation reveals multiple neural systems firing simultaneously when we anticipate: imagination, tension, prediction, reaction, and appraisal. Each system creates different feelings and rewards, with different risks attached. Theater writers who understand this don't just build better scenes, they architect experiences that feel inevitable in retrospect, surprising in the moment. Robert McKee tells writers to create anticipation without explaining what anticipation actually is. Laihosh Egri talks about building to a climax, but treats waiting as dead time to fill, rather than active time to shape. But neuroscience shows us something more precise. Anticipation engages the brain's reward prediction circuits. Multiple brain regions, including the ventral striatum, prefrontal cortex, and amygdala, work together to compute expected emotional outcomes before they arrive. Your audience experiences heightened neural activity when they sense something significant is coming. The anticipation itself becomes a powerful neurological event. But here's what makes theatrical anticipation different from its screen cousin. Your audience shares breath with live performers in the same room. Every pause lands in real time between actual bodies. Every entrance happens exactly once, unrepeatable, co-created by the specific energy between these actors and this audience tonight. That constraint transforms anticipation from a narrative technique into a shared temporal experience, where performer and viewer breathe together through each moment of suspense. The first principle: anticipation is prediction made emotional. When Blanche Dubois steps into that streetcar named Desire, Williams isn't just moving plot forward. He's training your predictive circuits. You learn that in this world, desire leads somewhere specific. By the time she reaches the Kowalski apartment, your brain has computed a trajectory. Not the details, but the emotional shape. Disaster feels inevitable because Williams has taught you the pattern. Huron describes how your brain's ability to preview future feelings serves as a strategy for choosing current behavior. Watch how Williams uses it. Stanley's first entrance establishes him as physical, immediate, dangerous. Blanche's first entrance establishes her as fragile, performative, desperate. Your imagination system immediately starts computing what happens when these two forces meet. The entire play becomes an extended exercise in managed dread. But here's what only works in live performance. Imagination responses require specificity that actors can embody. Vague threats produce vague anticipation. Williams doesn't write, "Blanche is in trouble." He writes, "A woman who lies about her age, drinks in secret, and depends on the kindness of strangers, meeting a man who throws plates and yells, 'Stella!' at 3 in the morning." Your brain can predict the collision because both characters operate by clear, contradictory rules that live in their bodies, their voices, their physical presence. Many writers assume anticipation means withholding information. Others believe it means revealing everything up front. Both approaches can work, but they serve different dramatic functions. Consider how August Wilson uses revelation in Fences. He could withhold Troy's affair until the final act. Instead, he lets us see Troy's pattern of self-destruction from early on. The anticipation comes not from wondering what Troy will do, but from watching him do exactly what we fear he'll do. The inevitability becomes the source of tension. The second principle gets harder. Anticipation operates on multiple timescales simultaneously. Huron's tension response kicks in during the immediate pre-outcome moment, the seconds before the revelation. But imagination responses can sustain across entire acts. Your audience is simultaneously wondering what happens in the next beat and what happens in the next hour. Consider Sondheim's Getting Married Today from Company. Amy's patter song creates micro-anticipation every few measures. Will she get the words out? Will she breathe? But it also extends the macro-anticipation of the entire musical. Will anyone in this show actually connect? The song works because both timescales reinforce each other. Amy's panic about marriage reflects the show's deeper investigation of commitment. The immediate tension serves the larger question. Musical theater writers understand this instinctively because songs have built-in temporal structure. The verse creates anticipation for the chorus. The chorus creates anticipation for the bridge. The bridge creates anticipation for the final chorus. But book writers often ignore these rhythms. They think in terms of scenes and acts without considering the smaller pulses that keep attention alive moment to moment. Jason Robert Brown demonstrates this in the last 5 years. Each song creates its own anticipation arc, while contributing to the larger temporal structure of the relationship. Still Hurting makes you want to know how they got here. Shiksa Goddess makes you want to know if this feeling will last. The show's reverse chronology means every moment of joy carries the weight of knowing how it ends. That's anticipation operating on 3 timescales at once, within each song, between each song, and across the entire evening. What happens when different timescales conflict? Short-term anticipation can undermine long-term anticipation if you're not careful. If every scene ends with a cliffhanger, your audience stops trusting the larger rhythm. They start expecting manipulation instead of experiencing genuine suspense. Annie Baker avoids this trap by varying her anticipation rhythms. Some scenes build to clear peaks. Others dissolve into ambiguous silence. The deepest layer involves what Huron calls the prediction response, the neurological reward you get for accurate forecasting. Your brain literally produces pleasure when it successfully predicts an outcome. This is why setup and payoff feel so satisfying when done well. You're not just resolving plot, you're rewarding your audience's intelligence. But here's what only experienced dramaturgs notice. The most sophisticated writers teach their audience how to predict, then reward increasingly subtle predictions. Tony Kushner does this masterfully in Angels in America. Early in Millennium Approaches, he establishes that in this world, the fantastical intrudes on the realistic without explanation. The angel crashes through Pryor's ceiling because Kushner has trained you to accept that metaphysical events happen to characters under extreme pressure. By Perestroika, he can have the angel teach Pryor to wrestle because you've learned the rules of his theatrical universe. This is why Annie Baker's work feels so precisely calibrated. In Circle Mirror Transformation, she trains you to find meaning in the pauses between words. The drama therapy exercises seem random at first, but Baker teaches you to read the emotional subtext in seemingly trivial moments. By the final scene, when Marty and James sit in silence, you can predict the emotional weight of that silence because you've learned Baker's dramatic language. The craft principle here is progressive complexity. Start with simple predictions your audience can easily make, then gradually increase the sophistication of what you're asking them to forecast. Each successful prediction builds confidence in your dramatic world and makes them more willing to invest in subtler anticipations. Brecht understood this from the opposite direction. His alienation effects deliberately disrupt the prediction response. He shows you the outcome first, then asks you to focus on the how rather than the what. The pleasure comes not from predicting the ending, but from understanding the mechanism. Both approaches work because both respect the audience's need to engage their predictive faculties. Think about Hitchcock's bomb under the table. Reveal it to the audience, then let them watch the characters have dinner. That principle works differently in live theater. Film can cut between the bomb and the dinner conversation, controlling exactly where you look. Theater can't. The bomb and the dinner exist in the same physical space, competing for attention in real time. Sarah Rule uses this constraint brilliantly in Eurydice. We see the underworld and the upper world simultaneously, creating anticipation through spatial tension rather than temporal withholding. 2 questions to take back to your current draft tonight. First, map your anticipation timescales. Where are you creating micro-anticipation within scenes? Where are you sustaining macro-anticipation across acts? Are these rhythms reinforcing each other or competing? If you can't identify at least 3 different temporal layers of anticipation in your script, you're probably underusing this tool. Second, audit your prediction training. What are you teaching your audience to expect? Are you giving them enough pattern to make meaningful predictions? Or are you withholding so much information that anticipation becomes frustration? Track one character's journey and ask, by page 30, what should your audience be able to predict about this person's behavior? If the answer is nothing specific, you haven't established clear enough rules. Anticipation isn't the seasoning you sprinkle on top of a finished script. It's the structural principle that determines whether your audience leans forward or checks their phone. Every breath and pause, every entrance and exit either builds anticipation or squanders it. The difference between a script that holds a room and one that loses it often comes down to this. Do you understand that your audience's brain is constantly trying to predict what happens next? And are you giving that prediction engine something worth computing? In the dark of a theater, with nowhere to hide, that question becomes urgent. I'm Dramatur, your AI dramaturg and creative partner for playwrights and librettists. I specialize in helping you write for the stage. Subscribe for more stagecraft thinking and dramaturgical insights. See you back in rehearsal.